Dear students, I am Dr. Anil Prasad Bandala, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Hyderabad. In this module, we will discuss about the development indicators, Human Development Index, Sustainable Development Goal indicators, use of indicators. Development is very complex and uneven across the globe. Many countries are still unable to meet and access the services due to some systemic and policy constraints. The people of these countries are need to face lot of challenges from external and internal. The richest countries with the highest per capita incomes are referred to by the United Nations as developed countries. These include the United Nations, Canada, most of the countries of Western Europe, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and a few others. The poorer states are referred to by the UN as the developing countries and include a diverse set of nations, some such as Vietnam, Argentina, and China are growing very rapidly, while others such as Haiti, Rwanda, and Sierra Leone are actually experiencing negative growth rates of real per capita income. Between these two is another group of nations called the newly industrialized countries. They include South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. These countries grew rapidly in the 4 decades after 1960 and typically have per capita income close to 50% of those found in developed nations. While we are discussing about the developed and developing countries, we need to consider the characteristics of those countries. The low standard of living of the mass of the population in developing countries is signaled out as the key issue in development. The development of per capita income over time and the factors that influence economic development or stagnation are important topics in this module. However, the interplay between economic and non-economic factors is of great importance of our understanding of dynamics of socio-economic development. In discussions of development issues, two general approaches can be distinguished. One is the fight against poverty. This approach focuses on the problems of widespread poverty, hunger and misery in developing countries and on the question of what can be done in order to realize improvements of situation in short term. Such countries will face poverty and the people are the country are very problematic and they will undergo lot of problems like hunger and misery. In those countries, agriculture is also one of the biggest factor to provide job opportunities. Moreover, these people derive primary income from agriculture. In those countries, in like developing countries, what happens? The agriculture depends on monsoon. If monsoon fails, the agriculture fails. It is interlinked with monsoon, so that these people will face hunger problems. Next point is the analysis of long-term economic and social development. This approach concentrates on comparing developments in different countries, regions and historical periods in order to gain a better understanding of the factors that have long-term effects on the dynamics of socio-economic development. Across the globe, the most serious problems facing the world today, water and food supply crisis, extreme volatility in energy and food prices, rising greenhouse gases, severe income disparity, chronic physical imbalances, and terrorism. The developing countries are unable to handle and most vulnerable to all of these risks. UNDP introduced Human Development Index in 1990, covers three dimensions. It evaluates the average improvement in an nation or region in basic three aspects of human development: a long and healthy life, access to knowledge, and decent standard of living. The HDI is the geometric mean of normalized indices measuring the improvements in each aspect. According to Malthus, if there were no checks on population growth, then population would increase at geometric rate, but at the same time, due to diminishing returns, food supplies can increase only at arithmetic rate, because each member of population would have less land to work and its marginal production would start to decline. But this prediction missed empirical support. The modern economic growth is associated with rapid technological progress in the form of scientific, technological, and social innovations. Human Development Index. A Human Development Index covers three dimensions. These dimensions include average achievements in health, education, and income. The average achievements are measured through three indices: health index, education index, and income index. HDI is composite index which combines these three indices with equal weightage. UNDP, United Nations Development Program, has been reporting human development indicator for a large number of countries since 1990 at annual basis. This index focuses in the three basic dimensions mentioned above using four basic indicators: life expectancy at birth as a proxy measure of a population's health and longevity, adult literacy rate and combined gross enrollment ratio as measure of knowledge and education. Finally, GDP per capita at purchasing power parity as a measure of decent standard of living. HDI was then one of the first indicators to challenge the supremacy of GDP and has become widely referenced and used. The basic use of HDI is to rank countries, regions, or territories by level of human development: low, medium, and high. Final list of proposed sustainable development goals. Sustainable development goal indicators should be disaggregated where relevant by income, sex, age, race, ethnicity, migratory status, disability, and geographic location or other characteristics in accordance with the fundamental principles of official statistics. It is approved by General Assembly resolution in United Nations. Goal 1: End poverty in all its forms everywhere. Goal 2: End hunger, achieve food security and improved nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Ensure health lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Goal 4: Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Goal 6. Ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Goal 7. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. Goal 8. Promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all. Goal 9. Building resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. Goal 10. Reduce inequality within and among countries, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. This is the goal 11. And goal 12 is ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Goal 13. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Goal 14. Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas and marine resources for sustainable development. Goal 15. Protect, restore and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. Goal 16. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all and build effective, accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels. Goal 17. Strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development finance. Sustainability indicators emerged to fill this gap, while after the Rio Summit in 1992, they started to become widespread. It is stated in Agenda 21, the need for acknowledging the importance of sustainability indicators by both national governments and the international organizations, which should be followed by the identification of relevant indicators. Use of indicators. We will discuss about use of indicators. Why we need to plan for the indicators. Indicators are used in everyday life, most commonly to alert the change in a normal situation. In particular, sustainability indicators are about information on the state of the environment, the economy and the society. They describe a situation on weakness and potential problems. They alert on issues which should be taken care of. This will help us and help international, national and local organizations to concentrate on where they are weak and where they are potential, and how can we address the potential problems, how can we help the people with the services, how can we help the people with the welfare activities. It can be useful to monitor, so that indicators are very important. And performance of actions and policy taken, they are performance assumption tools which check how successful have been developmental and policy choices made, and eventually how well humans are doing on their way to sustainable development. As a result of the above, it could be argued that indicators offer support in policy making. They are planning tools which help choose among alternative policies. Additionally, indicators help clarify objectives and set priorities. They are explanatory tools which contribute to the translation of the sustainability concept into practical terms. At large, we can see the indicators are how help to the individual, organization, nation or international bodies. Indicators will help directly to the users and end users. And through indicators, we can raise awareness among the public on sustainable development and necessary action to be taken. Through indicators, it will help identify data gaps and establish a conceptual framework for data collection. This will help us to collect data where we are lagging behind, how to manage the situation, how to address the problem, so that the indicator will guide us. Ideally, provide the link between the different components of sustainability, reflecting the significance of the dynamics developed in a complex system than a report of each component separately. The pressure state response framework. The PSR framework is based on a concept of causality. Human activities exert pressures on the environment and change its quality and the quantity of natural resources. Society responds to these changes through environmental, general economic and sectoral policies. The latter form a feedback loop to pressures through human activities. Accordingly, in the PSR framework, there are three types of indicators. The indicators of environmental pressures, which describe the pressures posed on the environment by human actions. And second one, the indicators of environmental conditions, which describe the current state, the quality of the environment, and the indicators of societal response, which describe the society's response to environmental changes and concerns. The definition of indicators is based on a number of environmental issues: climate change, ozone layer depletion, acidification, toxic contamination, urban environmental quality, biological diversity, landscape, water resources, forest resources, fish resources, soil degradation, while there is a last 14th issue called general indicators not attributable to specific issues. A wide variety of general functions attributed to indicators. Inter alia. To simplify or distill complex information about the features of the system, to act as a warning system, to point to unfavorable developments or system states, to monitor or account for the performance of systems is ongoing and systematic ways against desired or reasoned conditions, reference points or expectations, processes and components to chart and evaluate the effectiveness of resources spent on policy, program or innovation, to measure the state direction and rate of change, example progress, and compare it over time and context, example benchmarking, with reference to its links to model, yardstick or outcomes, to raise awareness and communicate information and trends to decision makers, stakeholders and the public at large, example about strengths and weaknesses of current practice or policy to stabilize processes, particularly implementation through, for example, generating profiles of data and targeting setting. To aid accountability, governance, decision making, dialogue, planning and reform, and address stakeholder interests about the present and future state of the system under consideration. Although there are various international efforts on measuring sustainability, only few of them have an integral approach taking into account environmental, economic and social aspects. In most cases, the focus is on one of the three aspects. Above all, we need to discuss about development indicators. The development indicators are very important to guide the society. At present, we can concentrate on undeveloped areas through development indicators. The development indicators will pave a way to choose the direction and policy making. The development indicators will help governments, national bodies to look after the development, where the development is not happen, where we need to develop, where we need to assist the people. These development indicators will guide each and everyone. The direction will comes from the indicators, and we need to look at external and internal determinants of development. As Roderick point out, factors that affect economic development can be classified using a two-tier approach. Based on a standard production function, inputs such as labor and physical and human capital directly affect per capita income. Much of the empirical cross-country growth literature has focused on these covariates, but the factors themselves are the product of deeper and more fundamental determinants and thus are at best proximate factors of economic development. The deeper determinants fall into two broad categories, that is internal and external. Higher average income is also associated with a more diversified economy with more alternative economic opportunities. Thus, it results in the overall development of the country besides role of geography on economic growth. Geography refers to the physical location of a nation and the various physical characteristics it is endowed with, for instance, distance from the equator, access to sea, agroclimatic zone, disease environment, soil type and natural resources. A country's size, access to sea and general topography can crucially affect transport costs and the extent of its integration with the world. Climate and soil affect the types of crops planted. Interestingly, geography may even contribute to the nature of a country's early institutions. In sum up, the total development is also linked with economic development. If we talk about sustainable development, the indicators we need to look at. These indicators are most important and help the institutions, persons and other organizations to look at all the things. Thank you.